What would you do if the boy bleeding in the snow belonged to the most feared man in Chicago? Claire Bennett had $52 in tips and eviction notice in her pocket, and a mother waiting for cancer medication she could barely afford. She was only trying to catch the last bus home when a broken breath stopped her in the alley behind Valenti's. Then she saw the blood. The boy on the frozen pavement was Lucas Vale, the guarded teenage son of Adrian Vale, a man powerful enough to shut down streets with a single phone call. Claire dialed the number he had given her hours earlier. "Mr. Vale," she whispered, "your son is bleeding in the snow. He can't get up." What happened next would expose a betrayal hidden inside Adrian's own empire and change all three of their lives. Stay until the end. Like the video and comment where you're watching from. But 12 hours before Claire Bennett whispered those words into Adrian Vale's private phone, her day had begun beneath hospital lights that made everyone look more tired than they felt. At 7:10 that morning, the oncology clinic at Cook County Medical Center was already full. Claire sat beside her mother beneath a flickering ceiling panel. June Bennett wore a red knitted cap pulled low over her ears. She had lost most of her hair after the second round of treatment, but she still applied lipstick before every appointment. That morning it was a soft rose color, a little uneven at the corners because her hands had begun to shake. Claire noticed. She noticed everything lately. The way June pressed her palm against her lower stomach when she thought no one was looking. The way she took a breath before standing. The way she called pain pressure as though a smaller word could make it less real. June caught her staring. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" Looking at me like I might break. Claire lowered her eyes to the folder in her lap. "You yelled at a vending machine last week. It stole my dollar. You threatened to have it arrested. It knew what it did." Claire smiled because June wanted her to. For a few seconds, they were not a sick mother and a daughter calculating the cost of time. They were simply two women sitting together too early in the morning making jokes about a machine that had swallowed a dollar. Then the clinic door opened. Miss Bennett. The billing coordinator stood in the doorway holding a tablet against her chest. She was young, maybe Claire's age, with kind eyes and a voice trained to stay calm around bad news. Claire rose first. June touched her sleeve. "Be nice. I'm always nice." June looked at her. Claire sighed. "I'm nice when it works." The billing office was barely large enough for 3 chairs and a desk. A paper snowflake had been taped to the window. Someone had drawn a smiling face in the center. The coordinator turned the tablet so Claire could see the account. June's medication assistance renewal was still pending. The pharmacy could provide 2 more doses at the current rate. After that 1 month would cost $2,860. Claire stared at the number as if shame might force the digits to rearrange themselves. They said it would take 10 business days. "I know. I can file an urgent appeal." "How long?" "Another 10 to 15 business days." Claire heard a cart squeak down the hallway and a child crying beyond the door. "She needs the medication Friday." "I'm sorry." The words sounded sincere. They changed nothing. Claire stood. "File the appeal. Mark it urgent. I promise." Claire left before the promise could become another number she had to remember. June was waiting near the elevators. She did not ask what happened. She only studied Claire's face and said, "How bad?" Claire pressed the button for the lobby. "Manageable. That means bad. It means I'm managing it." The elevator doors opened. June stepped inside slowly. "You worked until midnight." "I know. You're scheduled again today." "I know. You cannot keep doing doubles." Claire watched the floor numbers descend. "I can if they keep scheduling them." "Claire, what do you want me to do?" June went quiet. The question had come out harder than Claire intended. It landed between them sharp and unfair. Claire closed her eyes. "I'm sorry." June touched her arm. "I know what you're doing. I'm paying rent. You're trying to outrun fear." The elevator opened into the lobby. Cold air moved through the automatic doors every time someone entered. People stamped snow from their boots, even though only a light dusting had fallen. Claire adjusted June's scarf. "I'm not afraid." June gave her a tired smile. "You were a terrible liar at 9 years old, and you have not improved." Outside, the wind pushed down Ashland Avenue hard enough to make Claire's eyes water. They stood beneath the hospital awning while June waited for the medical transport van. Claire checked the time. If the van arrived within 5 minutes, she could catch the number 12 bus transfer at Roosevelt and reach Valenti's before lunch service ended. June watched her calculating. "Eat something before work." "I will. Something that requires chewing. I'll chew the coffee." "Claire, I'll eat." June took her hand. Her fingers felt colder than they should have. "You cannot save everybody by bleeding yourself dry." Claire looked toward the hospital windows. Behind one of them, doctors discussed treatment plans. Behind another, someone learned their life had changed. Money moved through the building and coded signatures, private rooms, and denied appeals. "I'm not trying to save everybody." She squeezed June's hand. "Just you." The transport van arrived. Claire watched until her mother was seated and belted in. June lifted 2 fingers through the window in a small salute. Then the van pulled away. Claire stood alone beneath the gray sky with $17 in her checking account and $400 due to her landlord by Monday. Her phone buzzed. A message from her manager. "Can you come in early?" "Lunch is slammed." Claire typed yes before she could think about it. By 12:35, she was tying a black apron around her waist in the employee bathroom at Valenti's. The restaurant occupied the ground floor of a narrow brick building on Taylor Street. Red awnings hung above the windows. Brass lamps glowed beside the entrance. In winter, the glass fogged from the heat inside, making the dining room look softer than it was. Tourists came for handmade pasta. Politicians used the side entrance. Men who did not want their names written down met in the private room. After 2 years there, Claire understood that silence had different prices. She never forgot what she saw. She simply knew when remembering out loud was dangerous. The lunch shift passed in a rush of coffee cups and complaints. By 5, Claire's feet throbbed. By 6, she had eaten half a bread roll over the kitchen sink. At 7:45, conversation near the entrance began to disappear. It did not stop all at once. A laugh faded at the bar. A fork paused above a plate. The owner, Dominic Valenti, emerged from his office so quickly he forgot to button his jacket. Claire looked toward the door. Adrian Vale entered with his son. Adrian wore a charcoal suit beneath a black wool coat. Snow rested on his shoulders in fine white grains. He was tall enough to make the doorway seem narrow, but height was not what changed the room. It was stillness. Adrian never rushed. He never looked around to measure the effect he had on people. Men who needed to check whether they were feared were usually not feared enough. His hair was dark cut close at the sides, with silver beginning near his temples. His face was controlled, almost severe. A plain gold wedding ring rested on his left hand. His wife had been dead for 4 years. He still wore it. Beside him walked Lucas Vale in a Navy school blazer and winter coat. Lucas was 14, though sometimes his quiet expression made him look older. He had Adrian's dark hair, but none of his father's cold restraint. His eyes were brown, watchful, and too aware of the way adults changed when they saw his last name. Marcus Reed entered behind them. He was Adrian's broad-shouldered head of security. 2 other men remained near the entrance. Dominic hurried forward. "Mr. Vale, your table is ready." Adrian nodded once. Lucas looked toward the dessert display. Claire saw it. She saw most things customers thought they hid. Dominic assigned Adrian's table to her because she did not stare, spill, flirt gossip, or become nervous enough to forget an order. Claire approached with 2 menus they did not need. "Good evening, Mr. Vale." Adrian looked at her. Claire. The fact that he remembered her name unsettled her. Lucas smiled. "Hi, Claire." "Hi, Lucas. Sparkling water for you. Still for your father." Lucas blinked. "You remembered. You ordered it 6 times. My father says repetition is a security weakness." Claire looked at Adrian. "Your father has never worked a dinner rush." For half a second, Lucas looked terrified. Then Adrian's mouth moved slightly. Not a smile. Almost. Claire placed the menus down. "Bread. Extra," Lucas said quickly. Adrian glanced at him. "You ate before we left. Bread is different." Claire nodded. "He's right." Adrian looked at her. "Is that a professional opinion?" 2 years of observation. She walked away before he could answer. In the kitchen, she added a second basket to the tray. One of the cooks raised an eyebrow. "Vale's kid, growing boy. Rich boy." Claire looked at him. Still hungry. The cook returned to the grill. When Claire came back, Adrian was on the phone speaking quietly in Italian. Lucas sat across from him, turning the stem of his water glass between his fingers. Claire set down the bread. Lucas whispered, "Thank you." Adrian ended the call. For several minutes, father and son ate in the strained silence of 2 people who loved each other but no longer knew how to cross the distance between them. Lucas looked through the window toward a group of teenagers standing outside beneath the red awning. They were laughing around a phone, shoulders pressed together against the cold. Adrian followed his gaze. "What? Nothing. Lucas." The boy tore a piece of bread in half. "Ben invited me to a basketball game Saturday." "No." Lucas looked up. "You didn't even ask where. It does not matter to you." Adrian placed his fork down. "You know why. I know I'm the only person at school who needs permission from 3 armed men to buy a hot dog. You are my son." Lucas laughed once quietly. "That's the problem." The words changed Adrian's face. Not much. Only enough for Claire to see the wound before it closed. Lucas looked away, ashamed of what he had said, but too angry to take it back. Claire approached with their appetizers. "Calamari," she said, placing the plate between them. "And the kitchen has declared the basketball discussion temporarily suspended." Lucas looked at her. "Can they do that?" "They control the food." Adrian's eyes remained on his son. Lucas took 1 piece of calamari. The room began breathing again. At 8:20, Grant Holloway arrived. Grant was younger than Adrian and handsome in a practiced way. He greeted Dominic, shook hands with a judge, and made everyone feel noticed. Claire had learned that men who noticed everyone were often collecting something. He stopped beside her near the service station. "Claire Bennett, Grant Holloway. You always look like you're carrying the entire restaurant. Only the expensive parts." He laughed. "You should be careful with that mouth." "Why?" "It gets attention." Claire lifted a tray. "Soda's dropping 6 wine glasses. I prefer the mouth." Grant's gaze stayed on her a moment too long. Then he turned toward Adrian's table. Claire moved to table 11 with a bottle of Chianti. From there, she could see Grant lean close to Adrian. "Marcus changed the west side rotation," Grant said. Lucas, still taking the Halstead route home. Adrian looked up. "Why freight protest near Ashland? I'm preventing delays." Near the entrance, Marcus shifted his attention toward them. His face did not change, but Claire saw confusion in his eyes. Adrian glanced at Lucas. "The route remains the same." Grant nodded. "I'll make sure the team knows." He smiled at Lucas. "How's school?" "Fine." "Still making your father proud?" Lucas's shoulders tightened. Adrian's voice became quiet. "That is enough." Grant lifted both hands. "I'm being friendly." "No. You're being familiar." The smile remained on Grant's face, but warmth disappeared from it. Of course. He stepped away. As he passed Claire, he murmured, "Some families take everything too seriously." Claire did not answer. At the front entrance, Marcus watched Grant cross toward the private room. Claire stored the moment where she stored unusual things. Not as proof. Not yet. Only as something that did not fit. Dinner continued. Adrian took another call. Lucas stared at the dessert display again. Claire carried a slice of chocolate hazelnut cake to the table and placed it in front of him. Lucas looked up. "I didn't order this." The kitchen made an extra. His eyes narrowed. "Did they? They will after I explain what happened to the first one." Lucas smiled. Adrian looked at the cake. "Sugar at this hour." Claire lowered her voice. "It's safer than basketball." Lucas laughed. The sound surprised Adrian. He looked at his son as though he had forgotten the boy could still make that sound. Then he looked at Claire. For the first time that evening, there was no calculation in his expression. Only gratitude. He did not know how to speak. At 10:15, Adrian requested the check. Claire placed the leather folder on the table. He inserted a card, then removed something else from the inside pocket of his coat, a black metal card. He set it beside the receipt. Claire looked at it. "That isn't mine." "It is now. There's no name on it. It does not require one." She picked it up carefully. A single phone number had been engraved into the surface. "What is it?" "My private line." Claire lowered her voice. "I don't want access to your world. You already work in a room where it eats dinner. That doesn't make me part of it. No." Adrian glanced at Lucas, who had become interested in the last crumbs of cake. "If my son ever needs help and I am not beside him, call that number." Claire looked between them. "Why me?" "Because everyone around me watches for threats." His gray eyes held hers. "You watch for people." The answer unsettled her more than flattery would have. "I serve food. You notice when someone is hungry before they ask. That is part of serving food." You noticed Marcus did not understand Grant's question. Claire became still. Adrian had seen her watching. She lowered her voice further. "Did you... I notice you." The room seemed warmer. Claire slipped the card into the inside pocket of her coat. "Only for emergencies." Adrian stood. "Your definition will be more useful than mine." Lucas rose beside him. At the door, he turned back. "Thanks for the cake." "Anytime." He hesitated. "Do you ever get tired of people acting like they're not scared?" Claire looked around the restaurant. Dominic pretended not to watch Adrian leave. A city official at the bar pretended not to lower his voice. Claire had spent the entire day pretending the pharmacy invoice was only a number. "Yes," she said. "I do." Lucas nodded. "Me too." Then he followed his father into the snow. Sound returned to Valenti's in small pieces. A glass touched the bar. Someone laughed too loudly. Dominic exhaled near the host stand and adjusted his jacket. Claire reached into her pocket and touched the black card. It felt cold even through the fabric. At 11:35, the last table paid. Claire counted her tips in the service hallway. $52. Her manager, Rebecca, appeared with next week's schedule. "I need you Sunday. I'm taking my mother to oncology." "Can she reschedule?" Claire looked at her. "No." Rebecca sighed. "We are short. My mother has cancer." "I know, but everyone has something." Claire folded the bills into her wallet. "That is not the same as everyone having cancer." Rebecca's expression hardened. "Don't complain when your hours get reduced." There it was, punishment spoken in the language of scheduling. Claire wanted to shout. Instead, she untied her apron. "Good night, Rebecca." In the employee bathroom, she pulled on her thin winter coat and checked 2 messages. Her landlord wanted payment by Monday. June wrote that she was home, had eaten soup, and did not want Claire traveling in the storm. Claire replied that she had enough for the prescription deposit. It was not true yet, but another shift and a delayed electric bill might make it true. At 11:52, Claire left through the kitchen. The cold struck like an open hand. Snow moved between the buildings in thick white sheets. The streetlights turned each flake gold for a second before the darkness swallowed it. The bus stop was 6 minutes away by the main road, 4 minutes through the alley. Claire pulled her coat closed and chose the alley. Her boots slipped on packed snow. Wind rattled the fire escape above her. Behind Valenti's, the dumpsters formed black shapes against the brick walls. Halfway through, she heard something, a small sound. Human. Claire stopped. The kitchen door had already closed behind her. The street ahead was empty. Her first instinct told her to keep walking. Trouble was expensive. Trouble took time. Trouble did not care that she had a sick mother overdue rent and $52 in her pocket. She took one more step. The sound came again, a breath that seemed to break before it reached the air. Claire turned toward the delivery truck. A polished black shoe extended from behind the rear tire. She moved closer. Dark hair lay against the snow. A navy school coat was torn at the shoulder. Claire dropped to her knees beside Lucas Vale, and the black card inside her pocket suddenly felt heavier than the whole city. The black card inside Claire's pocket suddenly felt heavier than the whole city. For 1 second she could not move. Lucas did not belong in the snow. He belonged beneath warm restaurant lights with chocolate cake on his plate. He belonged in the back seat of a guarded car complaining about security and basketball games. He belonged wherever Adrian Vale had spent 14 years making certain danger could not reach him. Yet there he was, curled beside a delivery truck with blood running from his eyebrow. Lucas. His eyelids moved. Claire placed 2 fingers against the side of his neck. His pulse was fast but present. She leaned close enough to feel the faint warmth of his breath against her wrist. "Can you hear me?" His lips parted. "Claire, I'm here." He tried to lift his head. Pain tightened his face. "Do not move." She put one hand beside his neck without shifting it. The old training returned in fragments, not as memory, but instinct. Airway, breathing, circulation. Keep him still. Keep him warm. Keep him awake. His coat had torn near the ribs. Beneath it, his white shirt was dark with melted snow and blood. Claire could not tell how much of it was his. She removed her scarf and tucked it around his shoulders. Then she pulled off her coat and laid it across his body. Cold immediately cut through her black uniform. Lucas caught her wrist. "My dad. I'm calling an ambulance." His fingers tightened. "No police. You need a hospital. Call him." Lucas's hand moved weakly toward the inside of his coat. Claire followed the motion and found a black metal card in the inner pocket. It was identical to the one Adrian had given her. 1 number, no name, no instructions. The kind of number a person called only when every ordinary option had failed. Claire took out her phone. Snow melted across the cracked screen. Her fingers shook as she dialed. The call connected after 1 ring. A man answered. "Speak." Claire recognized Adrian immediately. "Mr. Vale, this is Claire Bennett from Valenti's." Silence. Not ordinary silence. The kind that made everything around it feel louder. The wind. Lucas's shallow breathing. Claire's own heart. Adrian's voice changed. "Why are you calling this number?" Claire looked at the boy beneath her coat. "Your son is bleeding behind the restaurant." Something scraped violently across the floor on Adrian's end. "He's conscious." Claire continued, "But he can't get up." "That is impossible. I'm touching his pulse." The words came out harder than she intended. Adrian did not react to the tone. "How bad possible concussion, possible rib fractures. His breathing is shallow." "I cannot see where all the blood is coming from." "You checked his pulse. I studied nursing." A door opened on the other end. Men began speaking. Adrian issued instructions so quickly Claire could not separate the words. Then he returned to her. "Do not call the police." Claire stared at the phone. "Excuse me. Do not call them. I am not letting a child die because you are afraid of paperwork. I am not afraid of paperwork." "Then explain. I need 7 minutes. You have 3 before I call every emergency service in Chicago." A pause followed. Claire expected anger. Instead, Adrian's voice dropped. "Keep him awake. Keep him warm. Do not move his neck. I am coming." The final words were not an order. They were the closest thing a man like Adrian Vale could come to begging. The call ended. Claire slipped the phone into her pocket. Lucas's good eye had opened again. Did he answer? "He is coming." Lucas's face loosened slightly. Claire leaned over him. "Stay with me. Tell me what happened." His lips moved. They knew. Knew what? "My route." The words dragged through his breath. Claire touched his cheek lightly. Who knew one had the compass? What compass? Black ink. Lucas swallowed. On his wrist. His eye closed. "Lucas." Claire tapped his cheek. "Stay awake." He opened his eye again. Uncle Grant knew where I'd be. The sound of engines swallowed the alley. Headlights appeared at both ends. 3 black vehicles entered with terrifying precision. One blocked the street. Another stopped near the kitchen entrance. The third slid beside the delivery truck. Doors opened before the tires stopped moving. Men in dark coats stepped into the snow. Some scanned rooftops. Others turned toward the alley entrances. One carried a trauma bag. Adrian emerged from the middle vehicle. His coat was unbuttoned. Snow caught in his hair. He looked neither left nor right until he saw Lucas. Then he stopped. For one breath, the feared man in the alley was gone. There was only a father looking at his child on the ground. Adrian crossed the distance and dropped to one knee. "Lucas." The boy's face changed at the sound of his voice. Pain remained, but something deeper loosened. "Dad." Adrian touched his jaw with 2 fingers. The movement was so gentle, Claire almost looked away. "I'm here." A medic knelt beside them. "Miss, I need space." Claire shifted back but stayed close. His pulse remained steady. "His breathing is shallow. He may have injuries along the left ribs." He tried to move his neck once. The medic opened the trauma bag. "You did well. I need to know if he is bleeding internally. We will know soon." Adrian looked at Claire. "What did he say?" Claire hesitated. Lucas's fingers moved beneath the coat. Adrian saw the motion and leaned closer. "Do not force yourself," Lucas whispered. They knew the route. Adrian's face hardened. "Who?" 3 men. "Did you see them? Masks?" Lucas winced as the medic touched his ribs. One had the compass. Every man in the alley became still. Claire looked from one face to another. The medic continued working, but slower. Adrian's voice became almost soundless. "Where wrist?" Lucas breathed through his teeth. "Black compass. Broken north." Adrian closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, the father remained, but something colder had returned beside him. The medic looked up. "We need to move him now." 2 men brought a stretcher. Claire stood as they carefully rolled Lucas and secured his neck. He cried out once. Adrian's expression changed so violently that the men carrying him froze. The medic spoke firmly. "We have to lift him." Adrian nodded. Lucas was placed on the stretcher and covered with thermal blankets. Claire stepped toward the restaurant door. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against the brick wall. Adrian noticed. Of course he noticed. He rose and walked toward her. "You are freezing." "I'm fine." "You are shaking." "It is January." One of his men picked up her coat. Blood and melted snow had soaked through the fabric. Adrian stared at it. Then he removed his own coat and placed it around Claire's shoulders. She stiffened. I do not need this. Yes, he said. You do. The coat was heavy and warm. It smelled faintly of cedar, cold air, and tobacco. Claire hated how quickly her body accepted it. Lucas was loaded into the vehicle. Claire took one step toward Valenti's. Adrian blocked her path without touching her. Where are you going, inside? No. She lifted her chin. That was not a question. You found him. You heard what he said. I need every detail. I told you everything. You told me enough to know there is more. I am not one of your employees. Adrian's gaze held hers. No. The word came softer than she expected. Claire looked toward the vehicle. Lucas asked me to stay. Adrian followed her eyes. Then come because he may ask again. That was what moved her. Not the men, not the vehicles, not the authority in Adrian's voice. Lucas. Claire nodded. But I sit where I can see him. Adrian opened the vehicle door himself. Sit beside me. The interior was warm and dim. Lucas lay secured across a medical platform while the medic monitored his blood pressure and oxygen. Claire climbed inside. Adrian followed. The door shut. Chicago blurred beyond the dark windows. Snow crossed the glass in white streaks. For the first minute, Adrian said nothing. His right hand rested against the edge of Lucas's blanket. His left thumb moved slowly over his wedding ring. Claire watched him once, then looked away. Start from when you left the restaurant, he said. She told him. She described the kitchen door, the bus time, the sound behind the truck, the position of Lucas's body, and the words he had managed to speak. Adrian listened without interruption. When she repeated the sentence about Grant, his thumb stopped moving. Exactly what did Lucas say Uncle Grant knew where I'd be? The medic looked up briefly. Adrian's face remained controlled. Grant was at dinner. I know. He asked about Lucas's route. I heard him. You noticed Marcus's reaction. Yes. Adrian looked through the dark glass. I watched Lucas enter the townhouse. Claire turned toward him. You saw him go inside. I saw him pass the gate. That is not the same thing. Adrian's eyes moved to her. The air inside the vehicle changed. Claire knew she had stepped somewhere dangerous, but exhaustion had stripped fear of its politeness. You assumed the rest, she said. His jaw tightened. In my world, assumptions are usually supported by men with weapons. Then your world should understand how expensive a wrong assumption can be. The medic lowered his eyes toward his equipment. Adrian stared at Claire. She waited. Finally he said, yes. No defense. No warning. Only one word dragged from a place that rarely surrendered anything. Lucas made a sound. Adrian turned immediately. Lucas. The boy's eye opened. Dad. I'm here. Lucas breathed carefully. They said Crow. Adrian became still. Claire looked between them. Who is Crow? Adrian did not answer. Lucas continued. One said Vincent Crow wanted you to know. The medic leaned closer. That is enough. He needs to rest. Lucas shook his head slightly. The other man told him to shut up. Adrian's hand curled against the blanket. Claire saw the tendons rise beneath his skin. Did you recognize any voices? Adrian asked. No. Anything else? The compass. Lucas swallowed. He held me down. His eye closed again. Adrian leaned toward the medic. Is he losing consciousness? He is exhausted. His pressure is stable. Adrian did not move away. The rest of the ride passed beneath the steady rhythm of the monitor. Lakeview Medical Center appeared through the storm. The vehicle did not approach the public emergency entrance. It turned through a guarded gate and stopped beneath a covered private lane. 2 doctors and several nurses waited with another stretcher. Lucas was moved inside. Adrian walked beside him with one hand on the railing. Claire followed. The hospital corridor was quiet and polished. Framed photographs of the lake hung beneath soft lighting. There was no crowded waiting room, no broken vending machine, no exhausted families sleeping across plastic chairs. No one asked for insurance. No one asked how much money Adrian had. Everyone already knew. Claire felt the difference like an insult. A doctor stopped Adrian outside the trauma room. "We need room to work. I am going inside." "No." The doctor's voice was firm, but his face had gone pale. Adrian took one step forward. Claire moved beside him. "Let them work." Every man in the corridor looked at her. Adrian turned slowly. Claire held his gaze. "If they are thinking about whether you will punish them, they are not thinking only about Lucas." Silence filled the hallway. Then Adrian stepped back. The doctor disappeared through the doors. Adrian remained in front of them, staring at the handle as though he could force it to turn. Claire pulled his coat more tightly around herself. Blood had dried beneath her fingernails. Marcus approached from the elevator. He had removed his tie. A dark line of melted snow ran across one shoulder. "The townhouse team is contained," he said. "Eli is pulling traffic footage and security logs." Adrian did not look away from the doors. "Who was assigned to the rear escort Daniel Kessler? Where is he missing?" Adrian's eyes shifted toward Marcus. "Missing or dead? We do not know. Find out." Marcus nodded. No police radio traffic, no public hospital alerts. Whoever did this kept it quiet. Claire looked at Adrian. "You are really not calling them?" "No. A child was kidnapped. The detective supervising organized crime accepts money from 3 different crews. You know that Adrian faced her. I paid him once." Claire stared. The honesty was worse than denial. "And you expect me to trust your investigation?" "No." The answer came immediately. "I expect you to trust what you see. What I see is a father deciding he owns justice." Adrian's expression did not change. "Yes, that is not reassuring. It was not intended to be." Marcus pretended not to hear. The trauma room doors remained closed for 42 minutes. Claire knew because she watched the clock above the nurse's station. Adrian did not sit. A nurse brought coffee. It remained untouched. Another brought Claire dry socks and a hospital sweatshirt. She changed in a private washroom, but kept Adrian's coat over her shoulders when she returned. He noticed. Neither of them mentioned it. At last, the trauma doors opened. A doctor removed his gloves as Adrian crossed the corridor. "Your son is stable." The words seemed to restore gravity to the building. Claire's knees weakened. Adrian showed almost nothing but his shoulders lowered. The doctor continued. "He has a concussion, 2 fractured ribs, a dislocated left shoulder, facial trauma, and several lacerations. There is no internal bleeding on the first scan. We found no spinal damage. Will he recover? We expect him to." Adrian closed his eyes. "Only for a second. Can I see him briefly? Keep him calm." The doctor glanced at Claire. He asked whether the waitress was still here. Claire blinked. Adrian looked at her. "You stayed?" It was not a question. Lucas lay beneath white sheets in a private room. His face looked worse under clean light. The bruises had deepened. A bandage covered his eyebrow. His left arm rested in a sling. Adrian took the chair beside the bed. Claire remained near the doorway. Lucas opened his eye. "There she is." Claire tried to smile. "You sound surprised. I thought Dad might scare you away." Adrian looked at him. Claire moved closer. "Your father is not as frightening as people think." Lucas's mouth twitched. Adrian raised one eyebrow. Claire added, "He is worse in confined spaces." Lucas gave a small laugh, then winced. Adrian leaned forward immediately. "Do not move. I know." The warmth disappeared from Lucas's expression. "I was outside the house." Adrian's voice softened. Tell me only what you can. I thought Marcus was behind me. Marcus stood in the doorway. I should have been. Lucas looked at him. You were not. No. The admission carried weight. Lucas turned back to Adrian. The car came from across the street. 3 men. One covered my mouth. Did they say anything before putting you inside? One said. Crow wanted you angry. Adrian's eyes darkened. Those exact words Lucas nodded. Then another told him he talked too much. Claire stepped closer. Did they speak like strangers? Lucas considered the question. No. What did they sound like? Like men at work. Adrian looked at Claire. She continued gently. Did they argue only about how hard to hit me? The room went cold. Marcus looked away. Lucas swallowed. One said not to damage my face too badly. Adrian's hand tightened around the chair. Claire watched him force it open again. Lucas whispered, Dad, do not kill Crow. Adrian leaned closer. Why would you say that? Because they wanted you to. Adrian stared at his son. For one brief moment, pride and horror occupied his face together. I will not move without knowing the truth. Lucas closed his eye. Promise. Adrian looked at Claire. She understood why. He wanted a witness. I promise, he said. Lucas's breathing slowed. A nurse entered and asked them to leave. In the corridor, Adrian issued orders to Marcus. Lock every transportation file. No one leaves the city. Bring me every man who carries the black compass. Claire waited until Marcus walked away. What is it? Adrian looked toward Lucas's door. The compass is a mark given to 11 men in my organization. Why? They are trusted with routes, safe houses, families, and emergency movement. A symbol of protection. Yes. Claire folded her arms. One of your protectors helped take your son. Adrian did not answer. Eli Carter arrived near dawn. He wore wire-rimmed glasses, a dark coat, and the expression of a man who had forgotten sleep existed. I have the first camera sequence. They moved into a private consultation room. Eli placed a laptop on the table and connected it to the wall screen. The first recording came from a building across from Adrian's townhouse. Lucas appeared beneath the stone entrance school bag over one shoulder. Marcus's vehicle was not behind him. A dark sedan waited near the curb. 3 men stepped out. Lucas fought. He kicked one attacker in the knee and drove his elbow into another man's ribs. The resistance lasted less than 10 seconds, but Claire watched every one. Adrian stood behind her. He made no sound. The sedan disappeared from the camera. Eli switched recordings. 17 minutes later, the same vehicle entered the alley behind Valenti's. The men carried Lucas from the back seat. Claire expected them to throw him into the snow. They did not. One man lowered him onto his side. Another supported his head. A third checked the alley. Stop, Claire said. Eli froze the image. Go back 3 seconds. He replayed it. Claire leaned closer. The attacker beside Lucas adjusted his shoulder and cleared snow from his mouth. Marcus said, They knew what they were doing. Yes, Claire replied. Professionals. No. She watched the motion again. Caretakers. Adrian turned toward her. Claire pointed at the screen. They protected his airway. They placed him on his side. They chose a location where someone would leave after closing. Marcus frowned. They beat him. I know. Claire's voice hardened, but they did not want him dead. She looked at Adrian. They wanted him found. The room became silent. Adrian studied the frozen image. Why to make you see the damage? Crow wanted a message delivered. Maybe. Claire stepped closer to the screen. The attacker's sleeve had shifted. A black compass showed clearly on his wrist. The northern point had been split in two. Eli enlarged the image. Adrian's face hardened. Marcus spoke quietly. Nate Mercer has the mark in that position. Can it be copied? Claire asked. Yes, Marcus said. But the broken point and inner circle are specific. The artist used the same measurements for all 11. Claire studied the tattoo. If Crow wanted to claim the attack, why use your symbol to turn me against my own people? And why say Crow's name to turn me against him? Claire looked at Adrian. Both clues are too clear. He said nothing. She continued. A frightened boy remembered a name and a tattoo. Someone wanted him to remember both. Eli leaned back. So Adrian attacks Crow while purging his own organization. Marcus looked toward the screen. Chaos inside and outside. Claire nodded. And the person who controls movement during that chaos becomes important. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Routes. Vehicles, Eli added. Safe houses, Marcus said. Claire remembered Grant's voice at the restaurant, Lucas still taking the Halstead route home. She felt the cold return, though the room was warm. Adrian noticed. What Grant said, Marcus changed the rotation. Marcus looked at her. I did not. Adrian's face became unreadable. Eli opened another window. I checked the route file. Lines of access records filled the screen. Grant Holloway opened Lucas's schedule at 10:38 last night. Marcus swore under his breath. Eli scrolled lower. He was not the only one. Another name appeared. Nate Mercer. The man whose compass sat on the same part of the wrist shown in the footage. Adrian stared at both names. Claire watched his thumb move toward his wedding ring, then stop before touching it. Find Grant, he said. Eli began typing. Marcus reached for his phone. Claire looked through the consultation room window toward Lucas's door. One man had known the route, another had worn the mark. And somewhere between those two facts, someone had designed a war around a 14-year-old boy. Adrian stood before the screen without moving. The names remained side by side in the access log. Grant Holloway, Nate Mercer. Claire watched the silence settle over the room. Marcus held his phone near his chest, waiting for an order. Eli sat at the laptop with his fingers resting above the keys. Beyond the consultation room window, nurses passed Lucas's door in quiet shoes. Adrian finally spoke. Where is Grant? Eli opened another program. His phone is moving south on Lakeshore Drive. Alone. The device is inside his car. I cannot confirm who is holding it. Marcus said I can have 2 vehicles intercept him. No. Adrian's answer came quickly. Marcus looked at him. He may be leaving the city. Grant knows every road I control. If he wanted to disappear, his phone would not be traveling in his own car. Claire looked at the moving point on Eli's map. He wants you to follow it. Adrian turned toward her. She continued. If he is involved, he knows you will discover the access record. He knows you will look for him. Eli enlarged the map. The car is heading toward Grant's apartment. Too easy, Claire said. Marcus gave her a measured look. You think the phone is bait. I think a man who plans routes for Adrian Vale does not forget that phones can be tracked. Adrian looked at Eli. Continue watching it. Do not approach. Marcus lowered his phone. And Nate, bring him in quietly. To the warehouse, numbered Adrian's gaze shifted toward the hospital corridor. To Valenti's. Claire folded her arms. You are gathering people inside the restaurant. I own the building. That was not my concern. Adrian studied her. What is your concern? That Lucas was left behind Valenti's because someone knew the place was connected to you. If you bring every suspect there, you make the restaurant part of this. It has always been part of this. Not to the people washing dishes. His expression tightened. Claire stepped closer to the table. They did not choose your warehouse. They chose the alley behind a room full of ordinary employees. Someone already used them without their consent. Adrian's eyes remained on her. Marcus looked between them, but said nothing. After a moment, Adrian asked, "Where would you suggest?" Claire almost laughed. "You are asking a waitress where to question your men. I am asking the woman who saw the pattern before my security chief did." Marcus did not react, though Claire saw the muscle move in his jaw. She looked at him. "I did not mean that as an insult. It was accurate." The answer surprised her. Marcus continued. "I spent 8 years building the system that failed last night. Insults are not the problem." He looked toward Lucas's room. "The failure is..." Claire softened. "Then, do not let shame make you move too fast." Adrian watched the exchange. "There is a private operations office near the river," he said. "No restaurant staff, no residents. Controlled access." Claire nodded. "That is better." Adrian turned to Marcus. "Bring Nate there. No force unless he runs." Marcus left. Eli closed the root file and opened a second set of records. I also found the false alert that pulled Marcus from the townhouse. A map appeared on the wall. A red signal marked a parking garage 2 blocks west of Adrian's home. The alert reported an armed man near the lower entrance, Eli said. It was sent through the private dispatch channel at 11:04. "Who sent it?" Adrian asked. "The credentials belong to Daniel Kessler, the missing escort." "Yes. Can you locate him?" Eli's fingers moved. His phone stopped transmitting at 10:51. The last signal came from a service road near the Chicago River. Adrian's face changed. "Find the vehicle." Eli nodded. Claire looked at the timeline. Grant had opened Lucas's route at 10:38. Nate accessed it at 10:56. The false alert came at 11:04. Lucas was taken at 11:12. Everything had happened within 34 minutes. Not a sudden attack. A sequence. Claire pointed toward the screen. Who could change the backup car? Eli pulled up another record. The dispatch order came from Grant's office. Marcus had already left, but the room felt his absence. Adrian said Grant oversees freight and emergency movement. Vehicles, drivers, safe houses, Claire said. Yes. And he knew which message would pull Marcus away. Adrian looked at her. He helped design the security procedures. Claire turned back toward the timeline. So he did not break the system. She felt Adrian's attention sharpen. He used it exactly as it was built. No one spoke. The truth carried a different weight when said that way. A fortress was only as strong as the person holding the keys. Adrian reached for the back of a chair. For the first time since Claire had known him, he looked tired enough to need the support. Grant stood beside me when Anna died, he said. The words were quiet. He brought Lucas home from school. He arranged the funeral. He slept outside Lucas's room for 3 nights because the boy would not let anyone close the door. Claire watched his face. Trust had already begun turning into grief. Maybe he is not involved, she said. Adrian looked at her. She continued. Access is not proof. It is a question. You believe that I believe questions should remain questions until the evidence changes them. His gaze held hers. You are protecting him. No, I am protecting you from making the mistake they planned. A nurse opened the consultation room door. Mr. Vale, your son is awake. Adrian left the screen immediately. Claire remained with Eli. Through the window, she watched Adrian enter Lucas's room and sit beside the bed. He did not touch the boy at first. He waited until Lucas reached for him. Eli lowered his voice. He does not wait for anyone. Claire looked at the screen. Maybe he is learning. Eli gave her a brief glance. People around Adrian usually learn how to obey him. Does that include you? I learned how to ignore him efficiently. Claire almost smiled. Eli opened a new file. The sedan used in the kidnapping was found 6 blocks from Valenti's. Clean wiped, plates stolen, vehicle taken from a private garage 3 days ago, cameras disabled. Claire leaned closer. By the same person who disabled the townhouse system I do not know yet. What about the shell company that paid Nate? I have not found a payment, but you said Nate accessed the route. He did. That is all we know. Claire looked at him. Then why does everyone already sound certain he was in the car? Eli paused. Because his tattoo matches. Placement matches. Yes. Could the attacker have known where Nate's tattoo was? Eli understood. Anyone in Adrian's inner circle. Claire looked toward Lucas's room. Someone wanted the evidence to point inward and outward at the same time. Nate and Crow. Exactly. Eli studied her for a moment. You really were in nursing school 3 semesters? You should have studied criminal psychology. I waited tables. He looked confused. Claire explained. People reveal everything when they believe the person serving them does not matter. Eli returned to the laptop. That may be the most accurate description of surveillance I have heard. Adrian came back several minutes later. His face was controlled again. Lucas remembers the man with the compass had a scar across 2 fingers. Eli searched the personnel photographs. Nate has no hand scars. Adrian stopped. Claire said nothing. Eli displayed 11 photographs across the screen. Men of different ages, different builds, different positions within Adrian's organization. 3 had scars on their hands. 1 had lost the tip of his index finger. Another had burn damage across his knuckles. The 3rd wore gloves in every available image. Adrian pointed. Samuel Price. Eli opened the file. Security contractor. Currently in Milwaukee. Confirm it. Claire studied the photographs. The attacker wore the compass on his wrist. Yes, Adrian said. Could he have worn gloves normally? In winter, yes. Then the scar may have been visible only when he removed one. Eli began checking travel records. Adrian's phone rang. Marcus spoke through the line. Nate is not at his apartment, where his sister says he left before dawn. Took a bag. Find him. Grant's car is outside his building. Driver is inside. Grant is not. Adrian looked at Claire. The bait had reached its destination without the man who cast it. Bring the driver, Adrian said. He ended the call. Claire looked toward the hospital room. Lucas should not be alone. He is not. That is not what I mean. Adrian's gaze moved to the door. Claire continued. Every person he trusted failed to be where they were supposed to be. He woke up and saw doctors' guards and men discussing routes. He asked me to find the people responsible. He also asked you not to become what they expected. Adrian became still. Claire could feel Eli pretending not to listen. You should stay with him, she said. Let Marcus and Eli work. And you, I need to see my mother. The answer came more sharply than she intended. Adrian's eyes moved over her face. You have not slept. Neither have you. That is not an argument. It is when you are making it. He almost smiled. Then his expression returned to seriousness. Marcus will take you. No. Claire, I cannot arrive at my mother's hospital with 3 armed men. 1 driver. Does the driver carry a gun? Yes. Then my point remains. Adrian stepped closer. The people who took Lucas knew you would use the alley. They may know your mother's name. The words reached beneath her exhaustion. Claire looked at the floor. For a moment, she saw June beneath the clinic lights adjusting her red cap and pretending not to be afraid. Adrian's voice softened. I am not trying to frighten you. You do not have to try. I am trying to keep her out of this. Claire raised her eyes. Ask. He understood. Will you allow Marcus to take you to your mother? She nodded. One car. One car. No men standing outside her room. They can stand where she cannot see them. Claire exhaled. That is not the same thing. It is the closest agreement we are likely to reach. She looked at him. Fine. Adrian touched the collar of his coat around her shoulders. His fingers did not touch her skin. The nearness still changed her breathing. You should keep this. It is yours. I have others. That may be the most arrogant sentence you have said today. His eyes warmed. Only today. Claire looked away before the warmth could become something else. At Cook County Medical Center, June was awake. She sat upright in bed with a paper cup of tea between both hands. Her red cap rested on the table beside her. Claire entered alone. Marcus remained at the end of the corridor dressed in a dark coat and pretending to read messages. June looked at Claire's borrowed clothes, Adrian's coat, and the faint bloodstain near one cuff. What happened? Claire closed the door. Someone was hurt behind the restaurant. You. No. June set the tea down. Who? A boy. Is he alive? Yes. June studied her daughter's face. Then why do you look like you are still trying to save him? Claire sat beside the bed. Because the answer included a crime boss, a kidnapping a rival organization, and a man who might have betrayed the family that trusted him. Instead, she said, He is 14. June reached for her hand. That is young enough to make every adult in the room feel guilty. Claire looked at her. How are you? The pharmacy called. Claire's stomach tightened. June continued. They approved 2 emergency doses. Relief came so quickly it hurt. 2, enough for the weekend. And Monday can be afraid of itself. Claire laughed softly. June squeezed her hand. Who owns the coat? Claire looked down. A customer. A customer with very broad shoulders. Mom. I have cancer. It has not damaged my eyesight. Claire tried to remove the coat. June stopped her. Keep it on. You look warm. The word carried more than temperature. Claire sat beside her mother until June fell asleep. When she stepped back into the corridor, Marcus was waiting. Adrian called, he said. Eli found Daniel Kessler. Claire read the answer in his face. Dead. Marcus nodded. In his vehicle near the river. 1 gunshot. Claire closed her eyes. The missing escort had not abandoned Lucas. He had been removed. Did he send the false alert? His credentials did. We do not know whether he was alive when they were used. Claire looked toward June's room. They killed a man to open a path to a child. Marcus's voice remained low. Yes. And Lucas was left alive. Yes. The contrast felt deliberate. Not mercy. Design. The operations office occupied the upper floor of an old building near the river. Dark windows overlooked bridges, freight yards, and black water moving between ice. When Claire arrived, Adrian stood before a wall of monitors. He had changed into a clean shirt but still wore the same wedding ring. A cup of coffee sat untouched beside him. Eli showed them the recovered footage from the river road. Daniel's vehicle had arrived at 10:49. A dark van followed. 2 figures approached the driver's side. The camera lost sight of them behind a concrete column. 3 minutes later, 1 figure drove Daniel's vehicle away. The van continued north. Adrian watched the sequence twice. Can you identify the van commercial registration? Eli said. Owned by a company called Crow Distribution. Claire looked at him. Too obvious. Adrian's eyes remained on the screen. Eli opened another file. The shell company has been inactive for 8 months. Someone renewed the registration 2 weeks ago. Who? The filing came from an online account registered in Indiana. False identity. Yes. Adrian asked, Does Vincent Crow know the company still exists? I cannot confirm. Marcus entered. Nate has been located. We're a motel near Midway. He bought a ticket to Phoenix under his own name. Claire frowned. Under his own name? Marcus nodded. Departure at 6 tonight. Adrian looked at the clock. A man fleeing a Mafia boss did not buy a plane ticket under his legal name. Claire said, "He wants to be found." Marcus looked at her. Or he is stupid. Would Adrian give the compass to a stupid man? No. Adrian turned away from the monitor. Bring him to the office. Marcus said, alive. The question made Claire look at Adrian. He answered without hesitation. Alive. Marcus left. Adrian picked up the coffee but did not drink. Claire moved closer to the window. Outside, a freight train crossed the river. Long steel cars passed beneath the gray sky. Who is Vincent Crow? She asked. Adrian stood beside her. He controls construction unions, several trucking companies, and most of the South Side gambling rooms. Enemy competitor. That sounds polite. It is safer than enemy. Does he hate you? Yes. Would he hurt Lucas? Adrian looked out at the river. Crow has grandchildren. That does not answer the question. No. He turned toward her. I do not know. Claire studied him. The uncertainty cost him more than anger would have. Then ask him. Marcus would have objected. Eli looked up from his screen but remained silent. Adrian said, Men like Crow do not answer questions. Then ask one that reveals something when he refuses. You believe conversation can solve this. I believe the people who planned this want you to skip the conversation. Adrian looked at the moving freight cars. If I go to him, my men may interpret it as hesitation. Then do not look hesitant. His gaze shifted back to her. You have a simple answer for everything. No, I have simple questions for men who make everything complicated. A faint curve touched his mouth. What question would you ask? Crow. Claire considered it. Not whether he took Lucas. Why not? Because he will say no. What then? Ask who becomes powerful if you believe he did. The smile disappeared. Adrian stared at her as the freight train vanished beyond the buildings. 20 minutes later, he left to meet Vincent Crow. Claire remained with Eli. Adrian allowed her to listen through a secure audio connection. The meeting took place inside Crow's private club on the South Side. The sound came through clearly. A glass touched wood. Then an older man spoke. Adrian Vale in my club before sunset. Either I am dying, or you are angry. Adrian's voice was calm. My son was taken last night. Silence followed. When Crow answered, the humor was gone. Is he alive? Yes. Good. Claire listened closely. The word carried relief, but not surprise. Adrian said, 3 men took him outside my home. One wore my black compass. Another spoke your name. Crow exhaled slowly. That is convenient. Tell me you did not order it. I did not order it, you answered quickly. Because the truth was available. Adrian said nothing. Crow continued. If I wanted to move against you, I would take your trucks. I would burn your contracts. I would make every man who depends on your roads question whether you could keep them open. My son is a stronger message. No. Crow's voice hardened. Blood makes fathers irrational. Irrational men destroy useful things. Claire looked toward Eli. He was already recording every word. Adrian asked, You expect me to believe concern for efficiency kept you away from my child. I expect you to remember I have 3 grandchildren. That has not made you gentle. No. It has made me specific. A chair moved. Crow continued. You sent flowers when my granddaughter was born. My wife still has the card. That was courtesy. It was a boundary. The room on Claire's side of the connection felt smaller. Adrian asked, "Who benefits if I attack you?" Crow did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. "Peace makes kings wealthy." A pause. "War makes quartermasters powerful." Eli's fingers stopped above the keyboard. Adrian said, "Explain. In peace, your men know where the money comes from. They know which roads are safe. They know what every shipment costs." Crow poured a drink. "In war, roads close. Drivers disappear. Weapons become expensive. Cash moves through fewer hands. And the man controlling those hands becomes necessary. Necessary men become ambitious." Claire looked at Grant's name on the screen. Adrian asked, "Give me a name. If I had one, I would give it to you wrapped in ribbon. You expect me to trust you?" "No." Crow's glass touched the table. "I expect you to disappoint whoever wants us shooting at each other." The connection ended 11 minutes later. Adrian returned after dark. He entered the operations office alone. Snow had begun falling again, soft against the black windows. Claire stood near the coffee machine. "You believe him?" she said. Adrian removed his coat. "I believe he does not want war. That is not the same thing." "No." He looked toward Grant's access record. "But it is enough to delay one." Eli turned from the monitors. "Nate is downstairs." Marcus entered with him. Nate Mercer was 35, lean and pale from lack of sleep. A scar pulled at the corner of his mouth. His black compass sat on the inside of his right wrist. The same position shown in the alley footage. His eyes moved through the room. Adrian, Marcus, Eli. Then Claire. He stared at her 1 second too long. Adrian noticed. "Sit." Nate took the chair across from the table. Adrian remained standing. "You opened my son's route file at 10:56 last night." Nate's expression did not change. "I was checking a transport conflict." "What conflict?" "The Halstead route overlapped with a cash movement. Authorized by whom, Grant?" Claire watched Nate's hands. He kept his right wrist against his thigh, hiding the compass. Adrian said, "Show me your phone." Nate reached inside his coat. Marcus moved closer. Nate stopped. Slowly, he placed the phone on the table. Eli connected it to the laptop. "Unlock it." "You know my code." Adrian's voice became softer. "I asked you to unlock it." Nate entered the numbers. Eli began searching. Deleted messages appeared first. One unsent text had been addressed to a contact saved only as the letter G. "They know about the route. I need out tonight." Another file contained a photograph of Adrian's townhouse entrance. A third showed a ticket to Phoenix. Marcus looked at Nate. "You bought it under your name." Nate said nothing. Eli opened a financial record. $40,000 entered an account connected to Nate yesterday afternoon. From where Adrian asked, a shell company named Crow Distribution. The evidence aligned too cleanly. Claire felt it before she understood it. Crow's company, Nate's tattoo, the photograph, the escape ticket, the message to G. Every clue sat on the table like a confession prepared by someone else. Adrian looked at Nate. "Were you in the car?" "No." "Did you help take Lucas?" "Num." "Did Grant order you to open the route?" Nate's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Why?" He said a freight movement had changed. "Did you verify it?" "No." "Why not?" Nate looked toward Claire again. Fear moved across his face. Not fear of Adrian. Fear of saying the wrong thing in front of someone else. Claire turned slightly. Grant was not in the room. Yet Nate behaved as though he were. Adrian leaned closer. "Who is G?" Nate swallowed. I do not know. Claire watched his right hand. His fingers pressed twice against his thigh. A rhythm, not random. She looked at the phone. The unsent message had not been typed by a man calmly planning an escape. The words were clean. No spelling errors, no correction marks. Nate's hands were shaking now. She spoke. You did not write that message. Every face turned toward her. Nate's eyes widened. Claire continued. You were supposed to be found with it. Adrian did not look away from Nate. Why? Because every piece of evidence explains the story someone wants you to believe. Claire stepped closer to the table. Nate accesses the route. Nate wears the compass. Crow pays him. Nate runs. She pointed toward the phone, and before he disappears, he leaves a message to someone named G. Marcus said Grant. Exactly. Claire looked at Adrian. Too exact. Nate's breathing changed. Adrian saw it. Who prepared the phone? Nate remained silent. Adrian moved around the table. Marcus closed the door. Nate looked toward the exit. Claire said, he was not meant to escape. Adrian stopped beside her. She kept her eyes on Nate. He was meant to look like he tried. Nate's face broke. Only slightly. It was enough. Adrian's voice dropped. Where is Grant? Nate stared at the table. I do not know. That answer has already cost one man his life. Nate closed his eyes. Claire saw shame enter his face before fear replaced it. Then every light in the operations office went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A second later, an alarm began screaming from somewhere below. Marcus drew his weapon. Glass shattered in the hallway. Eli cursed as the monitors died. Adrian reached for Claire in the dark and pulled her behind him. Footsteps thundered on the stairs. Then Nate whispered a name into the darkness. Grant. Nate's whisper disappeared beneath the alarm. Adrian's hand closed around Claire's wrist and pulled her lower behind the conference table. Stay down. The command came close to her ear. Claire felt the heat of his body in front of hers as he placed himself between her and the dark hallway. Emergency lights should have activated. They did not. The office remained black except for snowlight leaking through the windows. Marcus moved toward the door with his weapon raised. Eli, I am here. Can you restore power not from this room? A gunshot sounded below. Then another. The alarm stopped. The sudden silence was worse. Claire heard Nate breathing near the table. Fast, shallow, close to panic. Adrian spoke into the darkness. Who is coming for you? Nate did not answer. Marcus reached the door and leaned against the wall beside it. Footsteps climbed the stairs. Not hurried, measured. Someone knew the building. Claire felt Adrian release her wrist. His hand moved to her shoulder instead. Behind the concrete column, he whispered. She wanted to argue. Then she saw the outline of the column near the windows. She crawled toward it. A shadow appeared in the doorway. Marcus fired once. The figure dropped. More shots came from the stairwell. Glass broke above the conference table. Claire pressed herself against the column as fragments scattered across the floor. Adrian moved toward Marcus. Neither man shouted. They communicated through position and timing, shifting between cover as if they had survived dark rooms together before. Eli remained near the computers. Claire could hear his fingers moving across a keyboard that no longer had power. What are you doing? She whispered. Trying to reach the backup network. With a dead computer. The computer is not dead. The building is. A faint blue light appeared beneath his hands. He had connected a small battery to the laptop. The screen illuminated his face. Claire looked toward Nate. The chair was empty. He is moving. Adrian turned. Nate crawled toward the side door. Nate, Adrian said. The man froze. If you open that door, Grant's people will see you first. Nate stared into the darkness. You do not know that. I know Grant arranged every exit in this building. Nate's shoulders sank. Another burst of gunfire came from the stairwell. Marcus returned 2 shots. A man groaned below. Eli's screen flickered. I have the internal cameras. Small images appeared across the display. 2 men were on the 2nd floor. One lay near the stairwell. Another had entered through the service corridor. A 3rd figure stood outside near a black utility vehicle. Claire looked at the grainy image. That one is not approaching. Eli enlarged it. The figure remained beside the driver's door, watching the building. Adrian said, Grant. Nate made a broken sound. Adrian turned toward him. He sent men inside while he stayed near the car. He always keeps one exit, Nate said. Marcus looked over his shoulder. You know his escape route? Nate remained silent. Adrian stepped closer. Grant is not here to rescue you. Nate looked at him. He came because the phone was found. He came because you were found. Nate's face tightened. Adrian continued. The evidence points to you. The payment points to Crow. The message points to Grant. You are the only man who can explain how those pieces connect. Nate looked toward the camera image of the utility vehicle. He said he would protect my sister. Claire watched the words leave him. There it was. Not loyalty, leverage. What happened to her? Claire asked. Nate looked at her as if he had forgotten she was there. She took money from one of the north side rooms. How much? 30,000. For what? His silence answered. Claire had seen the same silence at the hospital when families did not want to say addiction aloud. Grant offered to erase the debt, she said. Nate nodded, and in return open the route file. Drive 1 vehicle, wear the compass where Lucas could see it. Adrian's face became still. You were in the car? Nate closed his eyes. Yes. The word changed the room. Marcus aimed his weapon toward Nate. Adrian lifted one hand. Marcus did not lower the gun, but he did not fire. Claire asked, Did you hurt Lucas? Nate's eyes opened. I held his legs. Adrian moved before anyone could stop him. He crossed the distance and struck Nate hard enough to knock him from the chair. Nate hit the floor. Adrian caught him by the collar and pulled him upright. Did you touch my son? Nate's face had gone pale. I held him down. Adrian struck him again. Claire stepped from behind the column. Adrian. He did not hear her, or he chose not to. Nate's mouth filled with blood. I did not hit him. You watched. Yes. Adrian drew his weapon and pressed it beneath Nate's jaw. Marcus remained motionless. Eli looked away from the screen. Claire crossed the room. Adrian. His eyes stayed on Nate. She stopped beside him. Lucas asked you not to become careless with the truth. This is the truth. No, this is the part that makes you angry. Nate trembled beneath the weapon. Claire lowered her voice. He knows where Grant is going. Adrian's breathing slowed. Not because his anger had passed, because it had found a direction. He removed the weapon from Nate's jaw. Nate collapsed to the floor. Adrian looked at him. Talk. Nate wiped blood from his mouth. Grant has a freight warehouse near the South Branch. It is registered through a company in Joliet. Address. I do not know the number. Marcus stepped closer. You drove there. At night. They took my phone. The entrance was beneath the rail bridge, red loading doors, a water tower across the canal. Eli began searching satellite images. Claire watched Adrian. His fingers remained tight around the gun. Why Valenti's? She asked Nate. He looked at her. Grant knew you used the alley. The answer chilled her more than the broken windows. How he watched the restaurant schedules. Adrian's eyes darkened. Nate continued. He knew Adrian gave you the card. Claire stared. That happened less than 2 hours before Lucas was taken. Grant sent a photograph from the dining room. Who took it? One of the bartenders. Adrian looked toward Marcus. Find the name. Marcus used his phone. Claire asked, Why did Grant need me? Nate swallowed. He said you would find Lucas before anyone called the police. He said Adrian trusted your judgment. The tattered edge of Adrian's coat brushed Claire's hand. Grant had not chosen the alley only because employees used it. He had chosen Claire. He had watched Adrian give her the number and turned that moment of trust into part of the attack. He used me to deliver the message, she said. Nate lowered his eyes. Yes. Outside, the utility vehicle began moving. Eli looked at the camera feed. Grant is leaving. Adrian turned toward Marcus. Take Nate to the secure room. Keep him alive. Marcus looked surprised. So he can testify. So he can finish talking. The distinction was cold, but it was enough. Adrian headed for the door. Claire followed. He stopped. No. You need someone who knows what Grant looks like when he lies. I have known him for 20 years. That is exactly why you may not see it. This is not a dining room. No. In a dining room, people usually wait until dessert before trying to kill each other. Adrian looked at the shattered glass. You are not coming into that warehouse. I did not say I was. You were about to. I was about to say I am riding with Eli. No. Claire folded her arms. Ask. His jaw tightened. Gunfire had ended. Men were bleeding downstairs. Grant was escaping. Still, Adrian understood what she demanded. Will you remain here, Number Claire? Will you allow me to ride with Eli and stay in the surveillance vehicle? Adrian's eyes held hers. That was not my question. It is mine. For a moment, neither moved. Then Adrian said, You remain inside the vehicle unless Marcus or I come for you. Claire nodded. And if the vehicle becomes unsafe, you leave with Eli. Good. His gaze dropped to her mouth for less than a second. Then he walked toward the stairwell. The convoy crossed the city beneath thickening snow. Claire sat beside Eli in a dark surveillance van. Screens glowed across the rear wall. Marcus drove ahead with Nate secured in another vehicle. Adrian's car led them south along the river. The warehouse appeared beneath an elevated rail line. Red loading doors faced a narrow service road. A rusted water tower rose across the canal. No exterior lights were on. 3 refrigerated trucks idled near the loading bays. Eli scanned the building. Heat signatures on the lower floor. 6, possibly 7, Grant Claire asked. Cannot confirm. Marcus's voice came through the radio. North entrance secured, Adrian answered. Hold position. Claire heard doors opening outside. Men moved through the snow toward the warehouse. Eli brought up the building plans. Office level along the eastern wall, storage floor in the center, loading controls at the south end. A red light blinked near the floor plan. What is that? Claire asked. Fuel monitoring system. For the trucks. Yes. More red lights appeared. All 3 refrigeration units are running. Claire looked through the van window. White vapor drifted from beneath the trailers. Are they carrying food? Eli opened the freight manifest. Nothing is listed. Then why keep them cold? He searched another system. The monitors showed temperature readings far below what ordinary cargo required. Eli's expression changed. They contained chemical accelerants. Claire looked at him. For a fire, for something larger. Inside the warehouse, Adrian entered through the eastern door. The building smelled of metal oil and cold air. Rows of shipping containers created narrow corridors across the floor. Overhead lights flickered to life one section at a time. Grant stood on a raised loading platform. He wore a dark coat and held no visible weapon. 2 armed men waited behind him. Adrian, he called. His voice echoed between the containers. You brought half the city. Adrian stepped into the open. You used my son. Grant smiled. I used what you valued. Marcus and his team moved through the side corridors hidden by the containers. Grant looked toward the shadows. You can stop pretending Marcus is not behind the blue container. Marcus remained where he was. Grant laughed quietly. I designed these procedures. Every angle you trust was mine first. Adrian walked closer. You killed Daniel. He refused to leave his post. He trusted you. He trusted the system. Grant spread his hands. Systems fail when the people running them become sentimental. Adrian stopped beneath the platform. You left Lucas alive. Of course, you wanted war. I wanted movement. Grant descended one step. Crow controls the south side. You control the north and the river. For years, both of you have called stagnation peace. Peace made us money. It made you money. Grant's voice sharpened. I built the routes. I negotiated the drivers. I kept guns moving when politicians closed roads and kept cash moving when banks started asking questions. You were paid. I was kept useful. Grant stepped down again. I did not want gratitude. I wanted necessity. Claire listened through Adrian's hidden microphone. Eli recorded every word. Grant continued. If you attacked Crow, the roads would close within a day. His drivers would refuse your shipments. Your men would need weapons, fuel, safe houses, and cash. And all of it would move through you. Exactly. Pride entered Grant's voice. It was the first honest emotion Claire had heard from him. You would win, Grant said. You always win. Then you would discover the victory belonged to the man who decided what arrived and when. Adrian's face showed nothing. Why Lucas? Because money makes you careful. Grant's smile disappeared. Your son makes you stupid. In the surveillance van, Claire felt Adrian's silence through the speakers. Grant mistook it for permission. You watched Anna die because you could not leave the table, he said. Afterward, you built walls around Lucas and called it love. You stopped expanding. You stopped taking risks. Adrian took another step. You stood beside me at her funeral. I stood beside a king who no longer wanted his crown. Grant pointed toward the warehouse around them. I kept everything alive while you watched a child sleep. Claire saw Adrian's right hand move near his coat. Do not, she whispered, though he could not hear her without Eli opening the channel. Eli looked at her. Claire pressed the communication switch. Adrian. Grant's eyes shifted. He heard her voice through Adrian's earpiece. A slow smile returned. The waitress. Adrian did not answer Claire. Grant descended the final step. She is the reason I knew the plan would work. His gaze moved toward the dark windows. A poor woman with a sick mother finds a bleeding child. She calls the number because kindness is the only valuable thing she owns. Claire's hands tightened. Grant spoke louder. Tell her I chose her because she was predictable. Adrian said, She saw you before I did. Grant's smile thinned. She noticed a question at dinner. She noticed you performing grief. For the first time, anger touched Grant's face. I gave you 20 years. You gave me what benefited you. That is what loyalty is. No. Adrian's voice remained calm. That is employment. Grant reached inside his coat. Marcus's men raised their weapons. Adrian did not move. Grant removed a small black remote. Claire saw him touch the side button with his thumb. She looked at the fuel readings. Eli, I see it. Small signals began transmitting from the remote toward the refrigeration units. The trucks, Claire said. Eli typed rapidly. Grant lifted the remote. You think I came here to escape? Adrian looked toward the loading bays. Grant's voice echoed through the warehouse. I came to erase every record, every witness, and every man who believed I belonged beneath him. He pressed the button. Nothing happened. Grant pressed it again. The red indicators on Eli's screen turned gray. I blocked the signal, Eli said. Inside the warehouse, Grant stared at the remote. His composure cracked. Only for a second. It was enough. Marcus's men moved. One of Grant's guards fired. Gunshots tore through the warehouse. Adrian dropped behind a steel barrier. Marcus fired toward the platform. Grant ran between the containers. Claire watched the security feeds as figures moved through narrow corridors. "Camera 6, she said. Eli switched views. Grant crossed the southern aisle. He is heading for the loading control room. Eli opened Adrian's channel. Grant is moving south. Control room near Bay 3. Adrian changed direction. Marcus's voice came through. 2 men down. Grant is alone. Claire watched Grant enter the control room and lock the door. He moved toward a steel cabinet. "Can he activate the trucks manually?" she asked. Eli looked at the system plans. "Yes." Grant opened the cabinet. Inside were wired ignition switches. Eli cursed. "The wireless block will not stop a direct circuit." Claire watched Grant reach for the first switch. "How long before ignition seconds?" Adrian reached the corridor outside the control room. The door was reinforced. Marcus arrived behind him. "He is wiring the fuel," Eli said through the radio. Adrian fired twice at the lock. The bullets damaged the frame but did not open it. Claire studied the camera. Grant reached upward with his left hand. His right hand remained inside his coat. "Wait." Eli looked at her. "What? He is not touching the switch." Grant's fingers hovered above it. He looked toward the camera. Toward them. "He wants Adrian to break through the door." Eli enlarged the image. A wire ran from the doorframe toward the cabinet. "Pressure trigger," Eli said. Adrian was already preparing to strike the damaged lock. Claire opened his channel. "Do not enter." He stopped. "Claire, the door is part of the circuit." Grant looked directly into the camera and smiled. Adrian stepped away. Marcus examined the frame. "She is right." Eli accessed the fire suppression system. "I can flood the control room with foam." "Do it," Adrian said. Thick white suppressant burst from the ceiling. Grant disappeared beneath it. The cabinet sparked. The circuits died. Marcus forced the door from the side after cutting the trigger wire. They found Grant on the floor coughing, the remote still in his hand. Adrian entered last. Grant looked up through the foam. "You brought her voice into my warehouse." Adrian kicked the remote away. "She saved your life." Grant laughed. "You think that is what she did?" Adrian pulled him to his knees. Marcus searched him and removed a pistol. Grant's men had surrendered or fallen. The warehouse became quiet except for the hiss of the suppression system. Grant looked at Adrian. "You kill me now, and every man in Chicago remembers I frightened you." Adrian drew his weapon. Grant's smile widened. "There he is." Claire listened from the van. She could hear Adrian breathing, slow, controlled. Grant continued. "You think she made you better?" Adrian pressed the barrel beneath his chin. "No." Grant's eyes narrowed. "She reminded me I still had a choice." Adrian lowered the weapon. Grant's confidence disappeared. "You let me live, and they will call you weak. You are confusing restraint with mercy." Adrian looked toward Marcus. "Take him." Grant struggled as Marcus pulled him up, to where Adrian met his eyes. "Federal custody." Grant laughed again, but fear had entered the sound. "You do not use federal courts. I do today. You cannot hand me over without exposing yourself." Eli's voice came through Adrian's earpiece. "We have the kidnapping footage, Daniel's murder, the shell accounts, the explosives, and Grant's recorded confession. None of it requires Adrian's testimony." Grant looked toward the hidden microphone. His face emptied. Adrian said, "You wanted to become necessary." He stepped closer. "In prison, you will learn how quickly the world replaces a man." Marcus led Grant outside. Snow fell through the loading bay lights. No one fired. Nate remained in custody and agreed to testify. In exchange, his sister would enter a protected treatment program, and prosecutors would consider his cooperation when filing charges. Adrian did not call it forgiveness. Claire did not ask him to. Near dawn, Adrian returned to Lakeview Medical Center. Lucas was awake. The television played silently across from his bed. His bruises had darkened. His left arm remained in a sling. Adrian sat beside him. Lucas studied his father's face. "You found Grant?" "Yes." "Did he do it?" "Yes." Lucas looked toward the window. "And Nate. He helped. Did you kill them?" Adrian did not answer immediately. Lucas turned back. "Dad." "No." Suspicion entered the boy's eyes. "Because Claire stopped you." Adrian rested his hands on his knees. "Because you asked me not to become careless with the truth. I said not to kill the wrong man. I remember." Lucas looked down at the blanket. "What if Grant was the right man?" Adrian breathed in slowly. "Then I still had to decide what kind of father walked back through this door." Lucas said nothing. Adrian continued. "I spent years teaching you that fear kept people safe. It did not keep me safe." "No." The word came without defense. "I failed you." Lucas's eyes lifted. Adrian had never said those words to him. "I built walls," Adrian said. "I placed men behind you and cameras above you. I told myself control was the same as protection." His voice tightened. It was easier than admitting I was afraid. Lucas swallowed. "You are afraid, every day." Of what Adrian looked at the bruises on his son's face. "Losing you the way I lost your mother." Lucas turned away. For several seconds, the only sound came from the monitor beside the bed. Then Lucas said, "I cannot breathe inside your fear." Adrian closed his eyes. When he opened them, he placed one hand on the blanket between them. He did not reach for Lucas. He waited. After a long moment, Lucas moved his hand over his father's. Adrian looked down at their joined hands. Something inside him gave way. Not loudly, not completely. Enough. Claire stood outside the room. She had heard only fragments, but she saw the change when Adrian stepped into the corridor. He closed the door gently behind him. "It is finished," he said. Claire looked at the exhaustion in his face. "No." His eyes narrowed slightly. "The dangerous part is finished. What remains? Your son has nightmares. Your organization has a hole where trust used to be. Nate has to live with what he did. My mother is still sick." Adrian stepped closer. "And us?" Claire's breath caught. "There is no us." He absorbed the answer without moving. She continued. "You gave me clothes, money guards, a safe apartment, and an offer to help my mother before you asked what I wanted. I was trying to protect you." "I know. Was that wrong?" "It was incomplete." Adrian looked toward Lucas's closed door. "What do you want?" The question sounded unfamiliar in his voice. Claire felt the weight of everything between them. The alley, the coat, the hospital, the dark apartment beside the lake, his hand stopping before it touched her face. She moved closer. "I want you to keep asking." Adrian's gaze fell to her mouth. He did not move. Claire placed one hand against his chest. Beneath her palm, his heart beat harder than his expression revealed. She kissed him. The first contact was cautious, almost quiet. Adrian remained still until she reached for the back of his neck. Only then did his hand settle at her waist. He pulled her closer with a restraint that felt more dangerous than force. The kiss deepened. It carried no promise that their worlds had become simple. No illusion that grief, power, or fear had disappeared. It was only an answer given freely. When they separated, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. His breathing was unsteady. "I do not know how to do this slowly." Claire kept her hand against his chest. "You control half the roads in Chicago." Her lips almost touched his again. "Learn." Behind them, Lucas's door opened. A nurse stepped into the hallway and pretended she had not seen anything. Claire moved back. Adrian's hand remained near hers without closing around it. For once, he did not decide the distance between them. He waited until Claire placed her fingers through his. Neither of them spoke. The hospital corridor remained quiet around them. Nurses moved between rooms. A cleaning cart rolled past the elevators. Somewhere beyond the windows, Chicago was beginning to wake beneath a sky the color of steel. Adrian looked down at their joined hands, as though he had never held anything that could choose to leave. Claire felt the tension in his fingers. He was not afraid of losing control of the city. He was afraid of holding too tightly. She gave his hand a small squeeze. "Go sit with your son." Adrian looked toward Lucas's room. "And you, my mother will be awake soon. I can take you. You have not slept. Neither have you." Claire smiled faintly. "You are learning my arguments. I remember everything you say." The answer settled between them with more weight than a compliment. Claire released his hand. Adrian let her. That mattered. He returned to Lucas's room while Claire stood in the corridor for another moment, watching him take the chair beside his son. Adrian did not check his phone. He did not summon Marcus or ask for reports. He sat quietly while Lucas slept. For the first time since Claire had met him, Adrian Vale looked like a man who understood that being present was something different from being in control. 3 days later, Lucas left the hospital. The doctors had warned Adrian that physical injuries would heal faster than the fear beneath them. His ribs would mend. His shoulder would strengthen. The bruises would fade. No scan could show what happened when he closed his eyes. Lucas refused the wheelchair waiting beside his bed. "I can walk." The nurse looked at Adrian. Adrian nearly said no. Claire saw the refusal form in his face. She saw the instinct to protect Rise before he could examine it. Lucas saw it too. His shoulders tightened. Adrian took a breath. "Would you like Marcus beside you?" Lucas looked surprised by the question. "Not beside me. Behind you. Far behind me." Marcus stood near the door. How far, Lucas considered it. "Far enough that I cannot hear you breathing." Marcus nodded. "I can do that." Lucas walked through the hospital corridor with Claire on one side and Adrian on the other. Neither touched him unless he asked. At the private entrance, several black vehicles waited beneath the covered drive. Lucas stopped. His breathing changed, only slightly. Claire noticed. He stared at the middle vehicle, the same model that had carried him away from the alley. Adrian followed his gaze. "We can use another car." Lucas shook his head. "No, you do not have to prove anything." "I know." His voice trembled. "That is why I want to try." Claire moved closer. "What can you see?" Lucas looked at her. "What? 5 things." He understood. A hospital counselor had taught him the exercise that morning. Lucas looked around. The blue sign. He swallowed. Marcus's ugly tie. Marcus glanced down at the tie. Lucas continued. The snow on the roof. The nurse's silver shoes. Dad's ring. 4 things you can touch. My coat. The railing. The bandage on my hand. His fingers found Claire's sleeve. And this. 3 things you can hear. The engine. Someone closing a door. Your voice. His breathing began to slow. Adrian watched without interrupting. Lucas looked at the car again. Then he walked toward it. Adrian opened the door but did not guide him inside. Lucas chose the seat nearest the window. Claire started to step back. He caught her hand. "Come with us." She looked at Adrian. He did not answer for her. Claire climbed inside. The townhouse had changed before Lucas returned. Not in the way Adrian usually changed things. There were still cameras. Guards still watched the street. Reinforced glass still protected the windows. But the men no longer filled every hallway. The locked door outside Lucas's bedroom had been removed. His bedroom windows could now open several inches. Adrian had moved the security station from the room across the hall to the ground floor. Lucas noticed immediately. "You moved them?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you said you could not breathe inside my fear." Lucas looked at his father. Adrian stood near the bedroom door with his hands at his sides. "I heard you." Lucas entered the room slowly. His school books remained where he had left them. A basketball rested beneath the desk. The navy blazer he had worn the night of the kidnapping had been removed. The bed had been moved away from the window. Lucas stopped. "Who moved it?" "I did," Adrian said. "Why?" Adrian hesitated. "I thought you might feel safer." Lucas stared at the bed. Then he looked at the window. "I want it back where it was." Every guard in the hallway seemed to wait for Adrian's reaction. Adrian nodded. "All right." Lucas's expression changed. "You are not going to argue. I may argue later." Claire leaned against the door frame. "That is progress." Adrian looked at her. "I did not say I would enjoy it." That evening, Lucas woke screaming. Claire had returned to the safe apartment near the lake. Adrian called her at 2:17 in the morning. He did not greet her. "He cannot breathe." Claire sat upright. "Is he awake?" "Yes. Put me on speaker." She heard movement. Then Lucas's broken breathing filled the line. "Lucas, listen to me." No answer. "You are in your room." A breath caught in his throat. "You are not in the car. You are not in the alley. Look at the wall beside your bed." Silence. "What color is it? Gray?" His voice was small. "What else do you see?" "The lamp." "Is it on?" "Yes." "Good. Touch the blanket." Claire heard fabric moving. "What does it feel like?" "Soft." "Listen for your father." Adrian spoke quietly. "I am here." Lucas's breathing slowed by degrees. Claire remained on the phone until he fell asleep. Adrian left the room but did not end the call. "Thank you," he said. Claire leaned back against the headboard. "He needs a therapist. I have specialists coming tomorrow. Do not bring 6 of them. I was going to bring 4. Adrian." 1. She closed her eyes. "And let Lucas choose whether he wants to speak to that person. He is 14. He is the person who was taken." Adrian became quiet. Claire heard the lesson enter before he accepted it. "I will ask him." A week later, Lucas chose Dr. Samuel Green, a trauma therapist with silver hair, tired eyes, and no visible fear of Adrian. During the first appointment, Adrian attempted to remain in the room. Dr. Green looked at him. "Lucas may speak more freely alone." Adrian's expression hardened. Lucas looked between them. Claire sat in the waiting area with a magazine she had not opened. Adrian stepped into the corridor. He sat beside her. "This is a mistake." Claire turned one page. "You chose the therapist. He could ask Lucas questions I should hear. That is why you should not hear them." Adrian looked toward the closed door. "What if Lucas blames me?" Claire lowered the magazine. He might. Adrian's jaw tightened. She continued, he might also forgive you. Neither means anything if he cannot say the truth first. Adrian sat back. For 40 minutes, one of the most feared men in Chicago waited outside a room he could have entered at any moment. He remained in the chair. After the session, Lucas emerged looking exhausted. Adrian stood. How was it? Lucas shrugged. Adrian nearly asked what they discussed. Claire saw the question in his face. He changed it. Would you like to come back next week? Lucas considered it. Yes. Adrian nodded. All right. The change was small enough that no one else would have noticed. Claire did. Grant Holloway remained in federal custody. The evidence recovered from the warehouse connected him to Daniel Kessler's murder, Lucas's kidnapping, illegal explosives, financial fraud, and a network of shell companies built to profit from a war between Adrian and Vincent Crowe. Grant refused to cooperate. He dismissed 2 attorneys and threatened a third. He sent Adrian a letter from detention. Adrian burned it without opening the envelope. Nate Mercer agreed to testify. He did not ask for forgiveness. His sister entered a protected rehabilitation program outside Illinois. Nate accepted that he would still go to prison. Marcus visited him once. When he returned, Adrian asked what Nate had said. Marcus removed his coat. He said Lucas fought harder than any of them expected. Adrian looked toward the window. Did he say anything else? He said Grant chose Claire because he knew compassion would move faster than security. Adrian's expression darkened. Marcus continued. He believed kindness was predictable. Was he wrong? Marcus looked toward the dining room where Claire sat beside Lucas, helping him with a history assignment. No. Adrian watched her through the doorway. Claire caught him staring. What nothing? She narrowed her eyes. You are bad at nothing. Lucas looked up from his book. He watches people when he is worried. Adrian entered the room. I do not. You do, Lucas and Claire said together. For the first time since leaving the hospital, Lucas laughed without immediately touching his ribs. The sound filled the townhouse. Adrian stopped walking. He did not try to hide how much it affected him. Claire's life outside the Vale townhouse remained less easily repaired. The landlord still wanted rent. Valenti still scheduled her until her feet went numb. June still needed treatment. Hope did not erase bills. One afternoon, Claire met her mother at Cook County Medical Center for a consultation. June wore the red cap and the same rose lipstick. The oncologist explained that the current treatment had slowed the disease but not enough. A specialist at Lakeview Medical Center was testing a combination therapy that might be appropriate. Claire asked about the cost. The doctor hesitated. June looked at her daughter. How much? The number was larger than Claire's yearly income. Claire felt the room narrow. That evening, Adrian came to the Lake apartment. He brought no guards inside. He carried a paper folder. Claire looked at it. What did you do? I made calls. Her stomach tightened. I told you not to pay her bills. I did not. He placed the folder on the kitchen counter. The Vale Family Foundation has funded cancer programs for 7 years. Your foundation. It existed before I met you. That does not mean this is not for me. It is not only for you. Claire opened the folder. The foundation had expanded an existing patient assistance program at Lakeview. Funding would cover 12 additional applicants selected by an independent medical committee. June's physician could submit her case through the same application process as every other patient. Claire read the documents twice. You changed the program. I increased the funding. Because of my mother. Because your mother revealed a need I had ignored. Claire looked up. Adrian stood on the other side of the counter, giving her space. No guarantee. No. No special approval. No. She may be rejected. Yes. Claire hated the answer. She also trusted it. Why did you do it this way? Because you said help should not become a chain. His gaze remained on hers. I listened. June was accepted 3 weeks later. The treatment was not gentle. She lost weight. Food tasted like metal. Some mornings, Claire found her sitting on the bathroom floor because she had not wanted to wake anyone. Adrian offered nurses. June refused. He offered transportation. She accepted only after learning the driver was a retired school teacher named Mary, who carried peppermints and complained about Chicago traffic. June met Adrian for the first time in her hospital room. He arrived carrying white flowers. June studied him from the bed. "You are the customer with broad shoulders." Claire closed her eyes. "Mom." Adrian placed the flowers on the table. "I believe that was me." June looked at the wedding ring on his hand, then at her daughter. "You have caused trouble." Claire pointed at Adrian. "He caused most of it." Adrian nodded. "That is accurate." June smiled. "I like a man who knows when he is guilty. I have had practice." During the visit, Adrian did not mention money. He asked June about her years working in public schools. She told him about children hiding food in their pockets because nothing waited for them at home. Adrian listened. 2 months later, the foundation began funding breakfast programs at 3 schools where June had worked. He did not tell Claire. June did. Claire confronted him outside Valenti's. "You expanded another program." Adrian opened the car door but did not enter. "Your mother described a problem. You cannot fix every problem someone mentions." "No." "Then why do you keep trying?" He looked at her. "Because for years I believed power was only useful when someone feared it." Traffic moved behind them. Snowmelt ran along the curb. Adrian continued. "I am testing another theory." Claire stepped closer. "Do not turn into a good man too quickly. It will make me suspicious." His hand settled lightly at her waist. "I am not a good man." "No." She adjusted his tie. "But you are becoming less certain that being feared is enough." He kissed her forehead. It was not the dramatic gesture people expected from men like Adrian. That was why Claire loved it. She did not say the word yet. Neither did he. They moved slowly because Claire insisted. Adrian asked before sending a car. He asked before visiting. He asked before touching her when anger or fear made him forget that tenderness could also feel like pressure. Sometimes he failed. One evening, Claire returned to the apartment and found 2 guards outside. She called him immediately. "You added security. There was a threat near Valenti's. You did not ask. I judged the danger immediate. You could have called. I was in a meeting." "Then leave the meeting." Silence followed. Adrian was not accustomed to anyone suggesting that he abandon business for a conversation. Claire continued. "I will accept 1 guard until the threat is confirmed. I choose where he stands." Adrian exhaled. "All right, and do not send groceries. You have no food. I have food. You have mustard coffee and 1 apple." Claire looked toward the kitchen. "You searched my refrigerator," Marcus noticed. "Marcus is no longer allowed near my refrigerator." In the background, she heard Marcus say, "Understood." Claire tried not to laugh. Adrian heard it. "You are smiling." "No. You are a poor liar." My mother says the same thing. Their arguments changed. They no longer ended with Claire walking away or Adrian issuing an order. They ended with decisions both could recognize. At Valenti's, Dominic offered Claire the position of assistant manager. She looked at the printed contract. The salary was almost twice what she earned waiting tables. She looked at Adrian, who sat in the empty dining room after closing. "You arranged this. I suggested Dominic consider you. That means yes. He made the decision. Because you own the building." Adrian leaned back. "Then refuse it." Claire stared. "You want me to refuse. I want you to choose." She read the contract again. I do not know payroll. You can learn. I do not know vendor law. You can learn. I have never managed 40 employees. You already manage every room you enter. That sounds flattering. It was observation. Claire met Patricia Sloan the following morning. Patricia had managed Valenti's operations for 11 years. She wore dark suits, comfortable shoes, and an expression that made excuses die before reaching her desk. I do not care who recommended you, Patricia said. Good. I will not promote you because Adrian Vale likes looking at you. Better. Patricia studied her. You have 8 weeks to prove you can do the job. Claire accepted. The first month was brutal. She worked mornings with Patricia and evening shifts on the floor. She learned labor rules, inventory controls, supplier contracts, emergency procedures, and scheduling software. She discovered that Rebecca had been cutting hours from employees who refused extra shifts for medical reasons. Claire documented every case. Patricia reviewed the records. What do you recommend? A written attendance policy that protects documented medical appointments. That costs money. So does replacing trained employees every 3 months. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Continue. Claire proposed an emergency fund financed by optional private event fees and unclaimed promotional budgets. She designed a scheduling system that allowed employees to exchange shifts without losing hours. Patricia approved a trial. Rebecca resigned 2 weeks later. Claire did not celebrate. She hired a single mother from the lunch staff as scheduling coordinator. During a spring storm, lightning struck a transformer near Taylor Street. Valenti's lost power during a private dinner for 100 guests. The kitchen ventilation stopped. Refrigerators failed. The reservation system disappeared. Dominic panicked. Patricia was trapped in traffic across the city. Claire stood in the dark dining room while guests raised their voices. For one breath, she remembered the warehouse, the alarm, the gunshots, Adrian's hand pulling her behind him. Then she looked at the candles on every table. She called the staff together. They moved cold dishes to ice storage. The cooks shifted to gas equipment. Servers collected battery lamps from the emergency cabinets. Claire converted the menu to food that could be prepared safely. A pianist continued playing without amplification. The dining room settled beneath candlelight. Guests began treating the blackout like part of the evening. When Patricia arrived, Claire was carrying soup to a table because one server had twisted an ankle. Patricia watched from the entrance. The next morning, she placed a new contract on Claire's desk. Permanent assistant manager. No recommendation from Adrian. No favor. Claire signed it. That evening, she enrolled in one nursing course at a community college. She did not know whether she would return to medicine completely. She only knew poverty would no longer decide the answer for her. By April, Lucas returned to school 3 days a week. The first morning, Adrian stood beside the car holding a schedule with 4 security options. Lucas looked at the paper. What is this? You choose. Option 1 has Marcus inside the school. Yes. No. Option 2 has 2 men near the gym. No. Option 3 has Eli monitoring cameras from the car. Lucas considered it. How close is the car? Across the street. 2 streets. Adrian looked uncomfortable. Lucas waited. 1.5? 2. Adrian nodded. 2. Lucas selected the third option. Before getting into the car, he looked at his father. Ben invited me to another basketball game. Adrian's face tightened. When? Saturday? Who will be there? Lucas sighed. Claire stood in the townhouse doorway. Adrian glanced at her. She said nothing. He looked back at his son. Would you like me to meet Ben's parents first? Lucas stared at him. That is almost normal. I have been practicing. Lucas smiled. Fine. Adrian watched the car leave. His hands remained in his coat pockets. Claire walked beside him. You did well. I wanted to say no. I know. I still want to say no. I know. He looked toward the empty street. What if something happens? Something already happened. The answer hurt him. Claire touched his arm. You cannot give him a life without danger. What can I give him? A life that belongs to him. Adrian turned toward her. The morning sun touched the silver near his temples. He took her hand. I do not know how you make difficult things sound simple. They are not simple. She leaned against him. They are only necessary. Lucas began working at Valenti's 2 Saturdays each month. He cleared tables, folded napkins, and complained that customers placed gum beneath chairs despite living in a civilized society. Adrian objected to the job. Lucas said he wanted money that did not come from his father. Claire supported him. Adrian asked whether washing dishes was necessary for character. Claire answered, it was necessary for mine. Adrian stopped objecting. On Claire's 28th birthday, Lucas waited until the restaurant closed. June sat at a table near the window wearing a pale blue scarf. Her latest scans showed the tumors had begun to shrink. The doctors used careful language, promising response, continued monitoring, no guarantees. June raised a glass of sparkling water, to uncertainty behaving itself. They drank to that. Lucas approached Claire with a small black box. She looked at Adrian. Did you help him buy this? No. Lucas placed the box in her hand. I used my tips. Claire opened it. Inside lay a silver necklace with a compass pendant. The design was simple. 4 points surrounded a small circle. Unlike the black compass worn by Adrian's trusted men, the northern point was complete. Claire touched it. It is beautiful. Lucas looked embarrassed. The black compass means someone can guide people home. Claire glanced at Adrian. Lucas continued. But those men got lost. His voice softened. You found me when everyone else was looking in the wrong direction. Claire's throat tightened. She pulled him into a careful embrace. Lucas stiffened for 1 second. Then he hugged her back. Over his shoulder, Claire saw Adrian watching. There was no jealousy in his face, only gratitude. Later, after June had gone home with Mary, and Lucas had left with Marcus, Claire locked the front door of Valenti's. Adrian waited near the kitchen. No convoy, she asked. 1 car. That must be terrifying. I have survived worse. They left through the service door. The alley looked smaller without snow. Water dripped from the fire escape. Wooden crates of spring flowers stood beside the wall. The delivery truck was gone. Claire stopped near the place where she had found Lucas. Adrian stopped beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. Claire touched the silver compass at her throat. The first time I called you, I thought you were the most dangerous man in Chicago. Adrian looked down at her. What do you think now? You are still dangerous. He waited. She smiled. But now you ask permission. Adrian moved closer. May I kiss you? You are learning. His hand rose to her face. He waited until she leaned into it. Then he kissed her beneath the yellow service light. The kiss was slow. There were no alarms, no men watching rooftops, no blood melting into the snow, only the warmth of his hand at her waist and the quiet rhythm of his breath against hers. When they separated, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I love you. The words came without performance. No room fell silent. No one waited for an order. Claire looked into the face of a man who had once believed love meant building walls high enough to defeat loss. She took his hand. I love you too. Adrian's fingers closed around hers. Not tightly. Enough. At the mouth of the alley, the car waited. Adrian looked toward it. Then he looked at Claire. Which way? She smiled. Walk with me. He nodded. Together they passed the place where a frightened boy had once lain, unable to rise. Claire had believed she was saving Lucas that night. She had not known he would become the reason his father learned how to stand beside someone without standing over them. She had not known a single phone call could lead her back toward nursing school, give her mother a fair chance at treatment, or open a future no unpaid bill could fully control. Most of all, she had not known that home was not always the safest building or the most heavily guarded room. Sometimes home was a hand that loosened when you needed space and remained open when you chose to return. Claire led Adrian onto the street. He walked beside her, and for the first time in years, neither of them entered the night alone.